This is the video for solving inequalities day 2 for algebra. When you solve multi-step inequalities, you always want to solve like a normal equation. But if you multiply or divide by a negative number, meaning that the bottom number is negative, you have to flip the inequality sign. So a less than would become greater than, a greater than would become less than, but only if you multiply or divide by a negative. Be very careful. In this first problem, to get the negative 2x all by itself, you want to get rid of the plus 1. You get rid of the plus 1 by doing minus 1 and minus 1. Whatever you do to one side of the inequality or the equal sign, you have to do to the other. These ones cancel out. 7 minus 1 is 6. We bring down everything else that we didn't use yet. So bring down your negative 2x and the less than symbol. We want to divide by negative 2 and by negative 2. Those negative 2's cancel out. Now, this is where you have to be very, very careful. If this bottom number is negative, we need to flip the sign. So 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3, but this less than symbol will become a greater than symbol. So you have to be very, very careful. If that bottom number is negative, you have to flip the sign. In the second one, we want to get rid of that plus 10 by doing minus 10 and minus 10. Those 10s cancel out. Bring down your x divided by 5. Bring down your inequality symbol. 40 minus 10 is 30. That says x divided by 5. We want to multiply by 5 and multiply by 5 so that these 5's cancel out. We then get the x all by itself. 30 times 5 is 150. And we just bring down the inequality symbol. So we get x is greater than 150. In this third one, you want to get rid of the plus 5 by doing minus 5 and minus 5. Those 5's cancel out. Bring down your 3a, bring down your inequality sign. Negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Here's where you have to be very, very careful. You're not dividing by a negative. You're dividing by positive 3. That says negative 15 divided by 3. That bottom number is not negative. We do not flip the sign. So it just stays less than. Sometimes you're going to get answers where the variable or the letter will be on the other side of the inequality sign, the right-hand side. You might get answers that look like this. 3 is less than x. That's not written in proper form. When we go to write your final answer in proper form, the variable or the letter always has to come first. So when we flip things around, we're going to flip everything around, including the inequality symbol. So 3 is less than x really becomes x is greater than 3. If it wasn't or equal to, just going to add it at the bottom here, it would stay an or equal to. All right, so less than or equal to would become greater than or equal to, and vice versa for less than and greater than. But the number has to, or the letter has to come first, then the inequality sign, then the number. If you flip it around, you got to flip everything around. Looking at some more multi-steps, if you have a fraction, all right, to change a fraction to a decimal, we have to do top divided by bottom. The numerator divided by the denominator. You always do top divided by bottom to change a fraction to a decimal. So you're going to do 1 divided by 4 here. You're going to do 3 divided by 4 here. Always top divided by bottom. Change it to a decimal. Decimals are just a lot easier to work with. So 1 divided by 4 is 0.25x. Plus 2 is less than 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. Just changing them to decimals just makes life a lot easier. Now it's just a 2-step equation. So always get rid of your plus whatever or minus whatever first. So we're going to get rid of that plus 2 by doing minus 2 and minus 2. So we have 0.25x is less than negative 1.25. Divide by 0.25, divide by 0.25. Do we flip the sign here? No, we don't. We only flip the sign when that bottom number is negative. The bottom number here is positive, so we don't flip the sign. Top divided by bottom, negative 1.25 divided by 0.5 is negative 5. We don't flip the sign. Yes, there's a negative in the problem, but we don't flip the sign. In this middle one, we have the distributive property. We want to take the number outside the parentheses and multiply by both of the things inside the parentheses. Negative 5 times y is negative 5y. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, but I'm going to write minus 10 is greater than 25. Now it's just a two-step equation, plus 10 plus 10. So negative 5y is greater than 35. Divide by negative 5 and by negative 5. Be very, very careful here. Your bottom number is negative. If your bottom number is negative, we have to flip the sign. That bottom number is negative. We're dividing by negative 5. So this greater than symbol is going to become a less than symbol. Top divided by bottom, 35 divided by negative 5 is negative 7. In the third one, to get rid of that minus, we have letters on both sides of the equal sign here. We have variables on both sides of the inequality. I always like working with the smaller of the two letters first. If you work with the smaller of the two letters first, you'll work with less negatives that way. Negative 3c is smaller than negative 2c, so that's the one that I'm going to work with. So to get rid of that minus 3c, I need to do plus 3c. When letters are on both sides of the equal sign, we need to get all the letters onto one side first. You can't do the following. You can't combine your like terms like this, all right? You can't do that because they're on different sides of the equal sign. If they were on the same side of the equal sign, like we'll see in a little bit, then you could just add together your like terms. These are on different sides of the equal sign, so we have to add or subtract. If it's a negative, we want to add to both sides. If it's a positive, we would want to subtract from both sides. Anyway, to get rid of those, to get those c's to cancel out on the right-hand side, we add 3c and add 3c. Negative 2c plus 3c is 1c. Bring down everything else you didn't use yet. Now, be very careful here. You're bringing down a negative 9. It says minus 9, but when we bring it down, it becomes a negative 9. Now we just have a two-step equation here. Add 1, add 1. So we have 1c equals negative 8. Divide by 1, divide by 1. Be careful, we don't flip the sign here. That bottom number is positive, so we get c is less than or equal to negative 8. In the next one, we always want to get rid of the plus whatever or minus whatever first. So we're going to do minus 6 and minus 6. Bring down your x divided by 2. Bring down your inequality sign. Negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. Now we just have a one-step equation. We want to multiply by 2, multiply by 2. We do not flip the sign here. This bottom number, that 2, is positive. We don't flip the sign. So it's just x is greater than or equal to negative 18. In this middle problem, we do have letters or variables on the same side of the equal sign. In this one, they're both on the left-hand side of the inequality, so we can add together our like terms. When you add together like terms, always look at the sign that's in front of the number. In this one, we're adding together a negative 5x and a negative 3x to be negative 8x. That's your first step. Bring down everything else. So bring down your plus 2 greater than 2. Now it's just a two-step equation. Minus 2 minus 2. So negative 8x is greater than 0. Divide by negative 8 and by negative 8. Again, be careful. This bottom number is negative. So we have to flip the sign. These negative 8s cancel out. So we have x, we got to flip the sign. 0 divided by negative 8. Now 0 divided by negative 8 is just 0. If you were thinking that it's going to be negative 0, there is no such thing as negative 0. Yes, we're doing a sort of positive looking number, but 0 is not positive or negative. Divided by a negative, you might think that it's negative, but there is no such number as negative 0. That number does not exist, so it's just positive 0. In this third one, this one's sort of a trick question. because there's addition in the numerator, in the top part of the fraction, there's really an invisible set of parentheses around the top part. All right, that invisible set of parentheses, normally you would think, oh, I might subtract one and subtract one, but you can't because there's an invisible set of parentheses there. We actually need to get rid of the fraction first. This says W plus 1, and that whole thing is being divided by 7. So the first thing that we want to do here is multiply by 7 and multiply by 7. Those 7s cancel out. So we have W plus 1 is less than or equal to 63. Now it's just a one-step equation, minus 1, minus 1. So W is less than or equal to 62. Now we're going to get into some more complicated ones. These are more like three-step equations. All right, we have a variety of different things going on here. I would change this 1/2 to be a fraction. Remember to change it, or sorry, change it into a decimal. To change it into a decimal, remember that you have to do the top number divided by the bottom number. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 2 first. Instead of being 1/2, I have 0.5. All right. So I want to do the distributive property first. I want to get rid of my parentheses first. So if I get rid of my parentheses, I'm going to do this 0.5 times 4x and times -4 to get rid of the parentheses. I'm not going to touch that minus x yet. So I'm going to bring down everything that I didn't use yet. 16 is greater than. 0.5 times 4x is just 2x. 0.5 times -4 is -2. And then I'm just going to bring down this minus x. Now, when I take a look at it, now I have letters on the same side of the equal sign. Anytime that you have a letter all by itself, there's really a 1 in front of it. So I have letters on the same side of the equal sign. I'm going to combine my like terms next. So I have a 2x and a -1x on the same side of the equal sign. 2 plus -1 is positive 1x. Again, bring down everything else that we didn't use yet. So bring down your 16, your greater than symbol, and your -2. Now it's just a two-step equation. So I'm going to do +2 and +2. 18 is greater than 1x. Divide by 1, divide by 1. 18 divided by 1 is 18. You cannot leave your answer like this. You need to flip it around. When we flip things around, we flip everything around, including the inequality symbol. So greater than becomes less than. We want to be consistent. The point of the inequality symbol is facing the x. The point in our answer needs to face the x. Or if you want to think about it the other way, the mouth of the inequality is opened up towards the 18. We need to keep it opened up towards the 18. This next question represents a little more challenging because we're going to end up with a repeating decimal. When you do on the calculator top divided by bottom, 2 divided by 3, you really end up with 0.666666667 on the calculator. On these calculators, on the graphing calculators or whatever calculator you're using, there's only a certain number of digits that can fit on the calculator screen. So what they actually do is they round that last digit. Technically, that 7 is not there. This is really 0.6666666 on forever. When you type it into the calculator to do your calculations, at least type 10 sixes in, all right? You can't just type 0.6, you'll get the wrong answer. You can't use 0.66, you'll get the wrong answer. So 2/3 is really top divided by bottom, 0.6666666. I'm just going to rewrite this whole entire question. -1 divided by 3. -1 divided by 3 is really 0.3. Keeps on going on and on and on and on and on forever. So I can write -0.3 repeating. Again, when you go to type that into the calculator, -0.333, at least use 10 of those 3s. Don't just use 0.3. Anyway, solving the equation, I need to distribute and distribute to get rid of my parentheses. Always get rid of your parentheses first if you can. 0.6 repeating x, 0.6 repeating, so 0.666 times -3 is -2, so I'm going to write -2, is less than or equal to, and I'm just bringing down the -0.3 repeating. Now it's just a two-step equation. So I want to get rid of this 2 by doing +2 and +2. Again, when you type this into the calculator, you're typing in -0.33333333333333333. Fill up that whole screen with threes. You can't type too many threes in. At least do like 10 of them. All right. So -0.333 plus 2 is 1.66666. I'm going to write 1.6 repeating. The last step in this one is to divide by 0.6 repeating, divide by 0.6 repeating. Again, be very, very, very careful. When we go to type it into the calculator, you're typing in 1.6666666 divided by 0.66666666666. And when you do that, you get 2.5. If you only type in 1 6 or 2 6s or 3 6s, you're not going to get the right answer. So make sure you type in all the 6s. A lot bigger question here. 7x plus 22 plus 6x minus 3. When I take a look at this question, I'm really looking at two different sides of the equation. All right, I want to try and do some stuff to the left-hand side of the inequality to simplify it a little bit. Do some stuff to the right-hand side of the inequality to simplify it a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that line in the middle, but I just wanted to show you where I'm looking. So on the left-hand side, I can see that I have a 7x and a 6x. I can combine my like terms here to be 13x. On the left-hand side, I also have plain numbers all by themselves that I can add together as well. 22 plus -3 is 19. Then I have my inequality symbol. On the right-hand side, I can do the distributive property. All right, we need to get rid of the parentheses first. Always get rid of the parentheses. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times x is 6x. And then I'm just going to bring down this plus 14 here. Now, on the right-hand side, I have plain numbers. I have a 54 and a 14 that I can add together my like terms. You can put that in front of the plus 6x or in back of the plus 6x. It doesn't really matter. I think most people, because that 54 is out front, most people would probably do this and then bring down the plus 6x. But if you wrote 6x plus 68, it would not be wrong. I'm going to bring down everything on the left-hand side just to make a normal equation now. So now that we have this, now I can see that I have a letter on one side of the equal sign and a letter on the other side of the equal sign. When you have letters on both sides, I like to work with the smaller of the two letters first. So I'm going to do -6x and -6x. That way you're going to work with less negatives. In order to get all the letters on the one side, you either have to add the letters to both sides or subtract them. Add them if it's a negative letter, subtract it if it's a positive letter. So this was a +6, so we did -6 and -6. Bring down everything that we didn't use yet. Now it's just a two-step equation. -19 minus 19. 68 minus 19 is 49. Divide by 7, divide by 7, and you end up with x is less than 7. In the next question, again, big, long equation here. I'm going to look at both sides individually first. How can I make this simpler? Well, I can see on the left-hand side, I can get rid of parentheses. And on the right-hand side, I can combine some like terms. So I'm going to distribute and distribute first. So this is going to be 2 times -4x is -8x minus 26 is greater than, I can add together some like terms here. 30 plus 7 is 37. I can add together some like terms here. 6x plus 7x is 13x. Now I have letters on both sides of the equal sign. I want to try and get all my letters onto one side first. I like working with the smaller of the two letters. To get rid of this negative 8x, I want to do plus 8x and plus 8x. So I have negative 26 is greater than 37 plus 21x. Now it's just a two-step equation. To get that 21x all by itself, subtract by 37, subtract by 37. Negative 26 minus 37 is negative 63. Divide by 21, divide by 21. You're not dividing by a negative. Our bottom number is positive, so we don't flip the sign. So we have a negative 3 is greater than x. However, that answer is written backwards. So we are going to flip everything around so that it stays consistent. The greater than changes to less than. We flip-flop sides, and we have x is less than negative 3. You are going to have some questions that involve decimals. Again, look at the two sides of the inequality separately. Try and simplify those first before you solve the rest of the problem. I can see very quickly that I have distributive property on this left-hand side, and I have distributive property on this right-hand side. I want to get rid of the sets of parentheses from both sides. 18 times 5x is 90x. 18 times negative 0.3 is negative 5.4. On the right-hand side, 38 times 10.3 is 391.4. 38 times negative x is negative 38x. Now I can see that I have letters on both sides of the equal sign. I like working with the smaller of the two letters first. So I'm going to get rid of that minus 38 by doing plus 38x and plus 38x. 90 plus 38 is 128x. Bring down everything that you didn't use yet. Now it's just a two-step equation. Plus 5.4 plus 5.4. So 128x is less than 396.8. Divide by 128, divide by 128, top divided by bottom, and you get 3.1. In this last question, all right, this one's sort of written a little bit backwards. You can see it right away. Normally what I try and do is simplify both sides. There's nothing for me to simplify on that left-hand side, but there definitely is stuff to simplify on the right-hand side. So I want to get rid of parentheses. We always want to get rid of parentheses. I'm just going to bring down this -1 and the inequality symbol right away because I'm not touching that. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times negative m is negative 2m or minus 2m. I also on this side have a plain number and a plain number that I can add together my like terms. When I add together those like terms, that adds together to be a plus 5. Now I can see I still got to simplify. I have plain number on this side, a plain number on this side. I can add together these two like terms to be a 17, bring down everything else that I didn't use yet. Now it's just a two-step equation. So I'm going to try and get this negative 2m all by itself, minus 17, minus 17. So I have negative 18 is less than or equal to negative 2m. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. This bottom number is negative. Since this bottom number is negative, I have to flip the sign. That bottom number is negative, so I have to flip the sign. Negative 18 divided by negative 2 is positive 9. I flip the sign. Those negative 2's cancel out. Bring down my m. Now my problem is written backwards, or my answer is written backwards. I need to flip everything. This one is actually a double flip, all right? We flipped it once because we divided by a negative. We flipped it a second time to make the letter come first. Again, be very, very careful. Always get rid of your parentheses first. Look for combining like terms, and then look for variables on both sides.